We were that's why we got $1,000. Watch that itemized.
Well, no, because the standard.
Well, some of it's online. There is an in-person component.
Onto the ground.
All of this rain. We've had like record rainfall just this month.
And I think that might have been before you have to call them and I'm going to have to have it. And supposedly it's like little ones, but it's not little ones.
But my husband said, and he has
It could be let into the river. We just don't know.
well for what is happening, and they are saying leachate, and that's what creates those odors. But yeah, I mean.
So first question's the easiest. Can you say and spell your name for me?
Yeah, Richard Humanic Sr.
Can you spell it for me?
Humanic.
Perfect. And then you're a resident of?
I live on Rangewood Road here, right here in Live Oak.
How long have you lived here?
26 years.
26 years, okay. So I saw you earlier wearing your mask. Why is that?
Well, it's just a symbol of the air quality here and what we're dealing with here as residents of the area coming from the landfill.
What have you been dealing with as far as personal impacts from what's going on at the landfill?
Well, I mean, number one, I mean, it's the use of my property, right? I mean, we smell this. Yesterday, just last night, I stopped on the way home and picked up something to get to eat. My wife and I got out of the car, and that odor was so strong that I almost threw up, just going from my car to my house. And I got in the house, I didn't even feel like eating after that. It was just such a horrible, strong smell, and it's getting worse. This is the worst that it's been since I've been doing this.
And then what are you worried about in terms of personal effects? Like, what's your worry?
Absolutely, it's my health. It's my health and how it affects my health. And my wife is having health issues with it. I'm having, health issues with it. It's like in the house, we're coughing in the house. I mean, why? I don't know. I spent a week up in Spokane, Washington with my son and daughter-in-law and never choked one time, never coughed one time. We get home, as soon as we get in the house, we start coughing. And we don't know why. We don't know any of that. So.
My name is Abigail DeSessa, ABIGAILDESESA, and I'm a 25-year resident of Val Verde Canyon in the town of Castaic.
So, walk me through what's happening. So I know that life here in Castaic, Val Verde, on the west side is not all flowers. Walk me through what's happening.
It's become pretty unbearable. It's inhumane, what we have been forced to live with for the last year. The odors, the gases, they're really gases. Odors is a nice thing to say. They're gases and they are making us sick. and they're making lots of people sick.
And for you yourself, what effects have you been feeling since this has been taking place?
Okay. The most severe one that bothers me the most is when I get the tremors. I get internal tremors and I get a racing heart because I'm afraid that my heart is being affected. And that one scares me the most. The one I get the most common is the crushing headache, the pressure of breathing, the burning eyes, the restricted throat with pain. It's like a burning. It's a burning sensation.
And for you yourself, I mean, most people are kind of not in my backyard, a NIMBY.
Right.
For you, what is it like being here with this in your backyard? What is that like?
Well, I had no idea it was there originally 25 years ago, and throughout the years, of course, I've learned about it. And now it's become something where it's my everyday life. I'm locked up in my home 24/7. Every single day. There is no season that I can open my windows. There is no season that I can go out, walk my dogs, enjoy barbecuing, have my husband's grandkids come over. There's no fun with Grandma Turtle anymore. It's over. Can't come to our house. It's embarrassing and you get sick.
And some would say that it's been here for decades. But what has changed in the last year that has really prompted everyone to be here today?
Well, per the government entities that have been investigating it, they say there is a chemical reaction happening deep underground, causing volcanic-like substances to ooze up and out of the ground, releasing lots of different gases that are making us sick, and this liquid leche that is heavily laced with chemicals like benzene that you can get very sick from.
And for you, what's that change been between the last year of with that chemical reactions happening underground and before? What's that difference between before and now?
Well, before I was a highly active citizen in my community. I ran a turtle rescue from my property, and since then I've had to shut it down. I stay locked up. I suffer from severe depression. Getting out of bed and getting dressed every day is a challenge. As soon as I remember what's happening and that I'm stuck here because I can't sell, I can't move, and all my money's wrapped up in my property. So it's been life-changing and not in a positive way. The pandemic was easier by far on me than this. This event is way worse.
And for you, though, it's not just a physical impact. It's the emotional side. You mentioned the depression.
Yes.
What is that like in itself, knowing that, just like you said, the circumstance of your property value, the circumstance of having to deal with this, of the unknown of what's to come 10 to 15 years from now.
Right.
From the effects, even if it were shut down today, what could happen 10 to 15 years from now?
Right.
Talking about that emotional aspect.
I'm afraid I'm going to have PTSD. Home shopping, I feel like I have to do a forensic trying to find a place that won't have any issues, because the people we elect and that they hire to do the jobs that when we feel like we're going out to shop for a home in a new neighborhood and things like that, we think those jobs are done, so this is a safe area. They're not. It's delusional, and now I'm scared that I may go from the frying pan to the fire if I don't find what is actually lurking around that neighborhood. Because even if you can't drive there for a few miles, via air has become the newest thing. Google Earthing, measuring the distance from one place to another, because I'm under a mile via air, and every single day my home is infested. My property is covered. It's like trespassing into my brain on my property.
And into your life.
It is my life. I don't have a life that I recognize from a year ago.
And then I have two more questions for you. There's a lot of people who don't think it's impacting you. There's a lot of people who just, oh, I don't see it. It's not raining ash. It's not Chernobyl. You know, I always kind of compare it to Chernobyl, where you don't see the radiation,
No.
but you get near it and you feel the impacts eventually. For those people who live in the community who don't think it's impacting them, what words do you have to say to them?
Well, one of the big things I have to say to them is just because you're not smelling it doesn't mean it's not here. The majority of VOCs, volatile organic compounds, I have had to learn about, including methane and high levels of hydrogen sulfide, are all odorless. Carbon monoxide, odorless. But yet you will have physical effects from them and you don't have a clue. This is how people accidentally die in their own homes even. And yet it's in our air and all over our properties, coming through your attic and coming through your crawl space under your house. It is permeating in, and it is affecting you because You're not as nice of a person as maybe you were a year ago. You may be a little more short and curt. You may be having mild headaches that you just think is seasonal or something. Your relationships may be suffering. You might not be as active. You might not be able to exercise the way that you were or be as active in your community. You may be just out and out more negative. And these can be the effects of those gases and you don't even know it.
And then my last question to you is, if you could speak to the people who have the ability to stop this, have the ability to shut it down, who don't live here, who live 30, 40 miles away, what words would you have for them if you had the opportunity to speak to them right now? What would you tell them?
You have no idea how this is harming the people in your communities that you represent, that you claim that you stand for, and you're trying to protect, and you're trying to work for them and for the betterment of their lives and their community. You're not. You are leaving us here like lab rats. We are being treated worse than guinea pigs to absorb all these chemicals, all for the price of cheap trash.
Can you spell your name one more time?
Sure. Abigail DeSessa, Abigail DeSessa.
Perfect. Can you your title one more time?
25-year resident of Val Verde Canyon in the town of Castaic.
Can you say and spell your name for me?
Yasmina Rios Valdivia, Yasmina, Rios Rios, Valdivia Valdivia.
Perfect. And you're gonna look at me the whole time? So I understand that there have been some health impacts from the landfill. Can you tell me a little bit about what you've seen so far?
Well, I've seen throughout the years, I've seen a lot of cancer in Val Verde. My family being affected by it. My late husband passed away from colon cancer. My daughter had her whole colon and rectum removed. My son just in August had a portion of his colon removed. And we've lived with headaches, allergies, respiratory problems, asthma, heart palpitations. We've been impacted a lot. My parents as well. They also have a lot of health issues. I've lived there for 47 years. So we have seen a lot of changes throughout the years, the landfill impacting us.
And then when you, 47 years, that's your home. You know, what is that charm about your home? What do you love the most about your community?
What I love about the community is that everybody there knows everybody. I grew up there. I grew up in those hills, and being able to run around and being able to raise my children there as well. But now we can't do that anymore. I can't let my my granddaughter come over and play outside, run those hills like we did. We can't do that. It's impacted us a lot.
And in terms of the health struggles, I know there's an emotional toll. You know, losing your husband, watching your children going through this. For you, you know, as a mother and as a wife, you know, what is that like, knowing that that still exists and that, you know, very little is being done about it?
We've been fighting this for years now, and I try to get involved as much as I can because it has impacted my family, and it's been a struggle. It's been very emotionally draining, mentally draining, because we see nothing happening. We see that the county just doesn't care. They wash under the carpet and they don't care.
And you look at the landfill itself, and you know, the smell is one thing, but what's happened over the last year, you know, what have you felt about that? Just seeing the developments over the last year.
Oh, it's awful. The last year has been worse than any other year. To the point where we can't enjoy our backyards anymore. We can't go outside. We can't host. We can't have guests because, one, it's very embarrassing. Us having headaches every day, going out there and smelling that is just awful. It isn't a daily basis. No matter what time you go out, there's a smell.
You can kind of smell it a little bit right now.
Yes.
Bit. For those who, you know, we don't have smell-o-vision, so for those who can't understand what the smell is like, how would you best describe, well, wait a second. How would you best describe what that smell is like and having to experience it?
Every day is different. Sometimes we get a foul odor, sour milk. Sometimes it's just decomposed trash. Sometimes it's a sweet, rotten fruit odor. So every day it's different. Sometimes gases, chemicals, burnt rubber. So every day is different.
And some people will say, well, you live next to a landfill, so that's normal. A lot of people I've talked to over the last year or so have said, but this is not normal.
No, this is not normal.
You've lived next to it for decades. For you, what is not normal about what you're smelling and what you're experiencing now?
Before, every once in a while we would get the little odor, depending where the winds were shifting, little trash odor. But now it's not trash. Now it's chemicals. Now we're afraid of what's even in our water, what's doing to our health. The landfill, Chiquita Canyon Landfill, is killing us.
If you could speak to the people who run it, or the people who can make the decision to close it or stop what's happening, what would you tell them?
Please shut it down. You're killing us. Definitely.
And you yourself have seen it because your family.
My family has been impacted, yes.
Okay.
Asthma issues, respiratory problems.
And the cancer alone.
The cancer.
If you could speak a little bit more about the cancer itself, it's not just your family, from what I've heard.
Oh, no, it's many families.
I've heard the story of many families.
Many.
What have you heard about the families in Val Verde outside of yours in terms of cancer?
Yes, I have many families. Just on my street last month, in December, my neighbor passed away from cancer. So there's a lot of thyroid also. A lot of my friends and people I know have been diagnosed with thyroid problems.
Okay. Is there anything I missed
that
you want to talk about?
I know, well, just that we want the landfill to be shut down. Enough is enough. They're killing us, and we want it shut down.
And I understand that the landfill was actually supposed to close at some point, and then they expanded it.
Correct.
How did you feel about that? Just hearing, because I remember covering it a couple of years ago where they were, their permit had ended. That was going to be it. They were going to close. That was a promise for years, and then all of a sudden they expanded. How did you feel about that?
Very upset. The whole community was very upset. We didn't want the expansion, but it was out of our control.
Can you say and spell your name one more time for me?
Yasmina, Yasmina, Rios, Rios, Valdivia, Valdivia.
And you're a resident of where?
Val Verde.
Are you on the town council by chance?
No.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so can you say and spell your name for me?
Yeah, it's Osha Orchid. Osha is OSHEA, and Orchid is ORCHID, like the flower.
Okay, I'm gonna make one little adjustment. Okay. So can you walk me through, and what is your title?
I'm a partner with Sethi Orchid and Minor.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Can you tell me what's going on here today with the protest?
Yeah, so citizens are really fed up with the situation. The community is truly suffering. We have a lot of people who have serious health consequences from what's going on coming out of this landfill. We now know that there's benzene and hydrogen sulfide in the air that our children are breathing. That's why we're out today in front of Live Oak Elementary, is to bring attention to the fact that we have to worry about our children not being able to be outside during recess, not feeling comfortable leaving our kids at school because the landfill is spreading gas to this area about a mile from the landfill.
And geographically, that landfill really is just over the hill right there. That proximity for you, at the end of the day, how do you feel knowing that, that threat exists on the other side of the hill right there?
When I initially brought my daughter to this school, I didn't have any concern, but in the last year, the spread of the landfill gas has it's increased so much that it's going out well over a mile, and it is really just over a hill here. There's a business park also in between the area and some homes, but that landfill is very close to this elementary school, and we're seeing a lot of kids have nosebleeds, coughs that won't go away. I've talked to many families that have many children, under the age of 10, having frequent nosebleeds and coughs, having their children on inhalers. The saddest thing I heard about a week ago was a mother who has 2 8-month-old twins that are on inhalers, just sitting in their high chairs, coughing incessantly.
And when you think about that, Hasley Canyon gas leak, apples to oranges, yes. But you think about how people were clamoring, about that when that happened, how much action happened so quickly. And then when you see this, where that was dissipating into the air, but you look at this where this isn't. I can actually smell it a little bit right now. When you see the attention that this has not received, what goes through your mind?
There's definitely a concern from this community, especially the county is not doing enough. It's clear that the county has enough information about the public health risk that's happening and the fact that this has become a serious hazard in our community. A lot is being said about doing additional testing, but we have people that are truly suffering right now and have to worry about leaving the area to protect their families. This is a crisis in this community, and to see the county telling us, they hear us, or they're going to do more testing, or they're going to look into things is just not enough. So we're actually out here with the message to the county that it's time to close down the landfill. The landfill is clearly in violation of the permit that they're operating under, creating a nuisance to our community, creating a hazardous situation for our community, and so it's time for the landfill to be shut down. With our protest today, my firm is also filing what's called a writ of mandate. The writ of mandate seeks to get injunctive relief to shut down the landfill and start remediation measures.
Okay. And then what is noticeable? So if someone was just coming in the community, didn't spend a lot of time, what would they tend to notice in terms of there being a landfill, but also there being this problem? Whether it's a smell or...
So the most noticeable time that somebody's going to realize that the landfill is there is, if you drive right by the landfill, or you're in the community close to the landfill, especially in the early hours of the morning and then later in the evening, that's when it's the strongest. Right now it's gotten so bad, this month alone there's already over 1,400 complaints to AQMD, and those are complaints of people that can smell the smell and are having AQMD come out. That is increasing, and so AQMD is actually reporting that the time in the middle of the day when there's less reports has actually decreased significantly, so there's only a short break before people start calling in again with concern.
I understand about a year ago, I think it was April 2023, there was a NASA satellite image of the methane measurement, and seeing how, I guess, it was concentrated there. Is that of any concern for you guys?
Definitely. I looked at that and I saw previous years where NASA had flown over the facility, and you could see that in the previous years when NASA flew over, there were gas emissions coming out of a landfill, kind of what you would expect. But when you looked at this last year in April, those gas emissions that NASA saw was far beyond the boundaries of the landfill and went into the community. And so you could tell the gases are there.
And what answers are you getting from the landfill owners or the representatives there?
The landfill is really focused on the fact that there's this leachate reaction happening. They're, saying that they're making efforts to clean that up, but most disturbingly, they're not telling us what is causing the reaction. They claim that a previous owner put things in that part of the landfill. They don't have the information about what is there in the landfill. And, from our view as community members, being concerned about the toxins coming out of that heated leachate that's coming out of the landfill, an answer that we don't know is just not good enough.
Is there anything else you want to add that I maybe missed?
I can't think of anything.
If you could speak to the county, the local elected representatives who aren't here, the people who are kind of missing in action on this, what would you say to them?
For our county officials, it's just not enough what's being done. We've heard from public health that they understand that the benzene and hydrogen sulfide are likely responsible for the symptoms that the community is experiencing. And so having them talk about additional testing or research is just not acceptable. We need them to immediately shut down the landfill and take remediation measures to get this cleaned up.
Perfect. Can you say and spell your name one more time?
Yeah, it's Osha Orchid, and it's OSHEA, and then Orchid, ORCHID.
Cool. Awesome.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And then you're going to be
Good afternoon. My name is Pilar Chiavo. I'm the Assemblywoman representing this district, Santa Clarita Valley, and the Northwest San Fernando Valley. And I am deeply concerned about the recent Chiquita Canyon landfill violations reported by the Department of Toxic Substance Control, or DTSC. The fact that DTSC identifies these violations as, quote, the most serious, representing a significant threat to human health or safety or the environment, brings this issue to a level that of urgent crisis that must be met head on and with immediate solutions. We must focus on both the current impacts on daily lives of our residents as well as long-term impacts and solutions, so residents get the support that they need now and in the future to ensure that this never happens again. That's why I fully support the call for affected neighbors to voluntarily relocate if they want to, and also that associated costs be covered by the landfill. But the landfill must act now. This is also why today I was joined by key Assembly colleagues in a letter that we submitted to the DTSC director and chairs of the State Water Resources Board and the South Coast Air Quality Management District. I have the letter here if people would like to see it. And this letter is calling on them to increase their involvement with the site, as well as have an urgent meeting with all of the people who signed the letter to discuss the current state of oversight and accountability imposed on Chiquita Canyon. The steps that DTSC will be taking to expand monitoring and mitigation, and how DTSC, the Water Board, and the South Coast Air Quality Management District will be coordinating with local, state, federal, and federal entities to ensure rapid resolution to the crisis. The letter was signed by myself as the Assembly member representing this district, also the chair of the Los Angeles County delegation, Tina McKinner, Chris Holden, the Assembly member representing a neighboring district, Mike Gibson, Assembly member for the 65th district, which is the district where they are treating without the correct permit the toxic materials that were improperly transported to his district for treatment. And also Eduardo Garcia, who's the chair of the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials Committee. Furthermore, I'm encouraged by the involvement of the federal EPA. I know they issued a statement today saying that there's imminent danger and it needs to be mitigated immediately, and I welcome their oversight. Our office remains committed to advocating for our constituents and ensuring that their voices are heard throughout this process, which is why we encourage anyone in the community who has been impacted to please reach out to our office. I know we've been a part of community meetings, we've been a part of a number of actions that have been taking place around this issue, and we're going to continue to do that. We've been in meetings with the supervisor as well. And you know, I've been here today talking to neighbors, hearing about birds and bees being dead around people's homes, people passing out in their homes and having to be taken to the hospital. This is urgent, this is immediate, this needs to be fixed now. It's unacceptable. Thank you.
There we go. There. Thank you, Shane. Buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Yasmina Ríos Valdivia. Soy residente de Val Verde por 47 años. Gracias por estar aquí, todos unidos con una meta de cerrar Chiquita Canyon Landfill para siempre. Mi salud y de mi familia ha sido afectada con cáncer, problemas respiratorios, enfermedades crónicas, intestinal, ansiedad, alergias, palpitaciones, insomnio y mucho más. Chiquita Canyon nos está robando de nuestra salud, nuestra paz, nuestra tranquilidad y de nuestras vidas. Todos los días vivimos con dolores de cabeza, náusea, ardor de garganta y nariz. No podemos disfrutar de nuestros hogares porque estamos prisioneros de nuestras propias casas con tanto logro y esfuerzo que hemos comprado. Porque el olor es insoportable, más al saber que estamos respirando y ingiriendo gases tóxicos y químicos que traen serias consecuencias a la salud. Tenemos que mantener nuestras puertas y ventanas cerradas y aún así el olor y gases se penetran por toda la casa. No sabemos qué está en el agua que tomamos, que cocinamos, que nos duchamos. Solo sabemos que Chiquita Canyon Landfill nos está matando. No más toxinas. No más Chiquita Canyon Landfill. Chiquita Canyon Landfill nos está matando. Todos unidos para cerrar Chiquita Canyon Landfill para siempre. Chiquita Canyon nos está matando. Gracias.
We closed on our first house in the Tier 2 region of Val Verde. It was a dream to get our house and watch our daughter start to grow up. But that little piece of the American dream that we had has spiraled into an unending nightmare, filled with nausea, headaches, nosebleeds, burning throats, persistent coughs, debilitating brain fog, breathing issues, heart palpitations, and a terrible sense of isolation from both being trapped in our house, unable to enjoy the outdoors, and also unable to invite family and friends to enjoy our house with us. This is all because of the toxic gases constantly being spewed into our community from the Chiquita Canyon landfill. The anguish of this daily nightmare has led to an increased mental anguish, panic attacks, and depression for many of the residents, including myself. Our daughter, who isn't yet 5, already knows the distinct putrid smells that she's exposed to. She knows on the mornings where she needs to run to the car to avoid the exposure. She cries because she can't play outside. She can't go on her trampoline. She can't rollerblade. She also cannot escape the physical and mental impacts this crisis has caused. We can't enjoy our house. We can't have barbecues, ride bikes, or walk in the charming neighborhood of Val Verde anymore. We can't even get fresh air without driving 5 or more miles away. The county fails to protect our health and quality of life by allowing Chiquita Canyon Landfill to remain open. As a resident of Val Verde, a teacher in the Santa Clarita Valley, a civic leader, and most importantly a mother, I stand for all of those residents impacted and call for the County of Los Angeles to close the Chiquita Canyon Landfill. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. He queued it up perfectly. Next is Valerie Bradford from the NAACP.
Hello, everyone. The NAACP resolved many years ago to get behind protecting and defending environmental policies. Policies designed to safeguard and to ensure all communities are breathing clean air, ingesting clean water, and thriving on safe lands. Environmental and climate justice is a civil rights issue. We all depend on thriving and living in this physical environment, raising our families, and hopefully prospering. But once again, marginalized communities are being disproportionately affected with exposure to pollutants. Thousands of complaints of health issues, including headaches, respiratory diseases, and many of the things that others have already mentioned, many other illnesses. Toxic facilities emit contaminants into our water, our food, and into our communities' lungs. Placement of toxic facilities in this country are deliberate and often disproportionately affect marginalized communities like Val Verde. Our number one goal should be to elevate community health, to put our community health first, but rather billions of dollars are being allocated to fixing an issue after the fact, as opposed to preventing it. The residents of Val Verde and surrounding areas have valid concerns about the environmental, economic, and social impacts, but more importantly, they have valid concerns about their health this landfill is affecting. The NAACP works to address the many practices that are harming undeserved communities on a national, a state, and a local level. To foster sustainable, cooperative, and regenerative communities that uphold the rights and the health of our people. So we urge you to put the health of the residents of Val Verde and the surrounding communities first and close Chiquita Canyon Landfill today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron. Next, we have Assembly Member Chris Holden.
I wish it wasn't necessary to be here today. I wish that your voices had been heard a long time ago. But here we are. And I join with my colleague, Assembly Member Pilar Chiavo. And we want to say we hear you. We see you, and we stand with you. With thousands of complaints to the South Coast Air Quality Management District, with over 60 notices of violations against Chiquita Canyon Landfill for public nuisance in violation of California Health and Safety Code Section 41700, the operators of the landfill have demonstrated inaction, delayed and slow reactions, and a lack of transparency of their actions. At best, it would seem that the operators of the landfill only act when forced by authorities and regulators. The operators of Chiquita Canyon Landfill have delivered inadequate results in addressing the alarming concerns of the public nuisance they are causing. This is a public health crisis caused by them. It requires a permanent solution that provides immediate relief for the impacted communities and their families. It is well documented that the air pollution has dire consequences on the health of people. Poor air quality causes the lungs to constrict, resulting in wheezing, shortness of breath, and chest tightness, especially during exercise or physical activity. Depending on exposure, air pollution alone can cause an increased risk of cardiovascular, respiratory illness, lung disease, cancerous tumors, birth defects, premature births, developmental disorders, central nervous system damage, intellectual disability, persistent memory impairments, epilepsy, dementia, and premature death. The real dangers of air pollution exposure is why in 2017, myself and other members of the legislature put forth a bill that was designed to address the issues that have been caused, that we're seeing caused by this landfill today. Improving monitoring and reporting of air pollutant emissions. That's what the bill was designed to do. Implemented emission reduction programs, expedited retrofit of pollution control equipment, increased civil and criminal penalties for air pollution violations. That is the law today. So why is it that the operators of Chiquita Canyon are skirting so easily through this process? Today I stand with the residents and families who are fighting for their health, safety, and well-being. Their lives have been turned upside down by a bad operator who should have never had their contract extended. We now know the operators have failed to report immediately hazardous incidents to the Air Quality Management District, eruptions of polluted water, rivers of odorous waste. The health and quality of life for residents is under constant attack by the odors. Both the persistent and still unknown conditions that have not been acknowledged or not yet reported to the regulators have real short and long-term impacts and consequences to those living in the communities around the landfill. This mismanagement and lack of adequate air monitoring over the years is now creating an environmental and health disaster. The community members who have spoken, you have spoken as a community, and we hear you. And we're at a time now where the county needs to hear you, the operators need to hear you, and they need to take action and take it now. And if they cannot do that, shut it down.
Thank you so much. We have community member and school district member Julie Showland Miller. Nora Lynn Clemens, community member.
Good afternoon. I don't have any prepared materials. I, of course, being a member, a short-time resident, 5 years of Val Verde, have strong feelings and just, disgusted with the disregard that the county and likely the state is showing for humans, for my kid, for my family, for people who have lived in Val Verde close to 50 years. And for those of us, who make attempts to think the best and hope for the best, it is so disappointing. I mean, they're not even words. And of course, I don't have to say that to those of you who are here. What I do want to say is that, to me, the landfill operators, like any other contractors, it is certainly within their interest to ask for longer terms, for permissions to do more and to have more and to make more money. The problem I have is with Los Angeles County 3 times extending and disregarding limitations that were set to protect our health. And so that is the answer I would love to hear today. I would love to hear in the near future. I would love to hear from those who are involved with the political process and say, hey, I'm here, vote for me, and I'm going to make changes for you. Where were you when Los Angeles County was extending clear limits that were set to protect human health? That's my problem is with Los Angeles County. Any contractor is going to ask for more. That's what they do. The problem is that Los Angeles County found it in their best interests to line their pockets and disregard our health and our community. And so that's where I see that the responsibility sits, and that's the answer that I want to hear. And who is going to make them accountable for the problem that they created, sitting in that boardroom, comfortable, driving their cars comfortably, playing around their houses and having parties and breathing clean air. Who is going to hold them accountable? That's the answer I'd like to hear.
Nothing prepared at all. But this has been, this is the second time that I have been in a protest about this landfill. Like I said, we moved to Val Verde 11 years ago. I actually bought my home from a classmate at Cal Arts. I went to Cal Arts, got my master's in animation there. And I grew up in Nebraska, so when we went to Val Verde to see it, it was like this amazing combination of the things that I love about growing up on a farm in a rural area, but also being surrounded by a diverse community and a community of artists and salt of the earth and just people who really cared about each other. It was the same sort of neighborhood that I grew up in, where people cared about each other and knew their name. So when we bought our home, we were told, don't worry about the landfill, it's gonna close. Like, here's the contract, so it's set to close. Fast forward a year. I am going to 4 or 5 meetings a night. I'm part of the Val Verde Civic Association, trying to advocate for my community, because I was so disheartened to know that we bought this beautiful home in this community that I loved, and they were actually going to let this landfill continue. That was with a contract with the Val Verde Civic Association. The landfill owners that the Waste Connections was grandfathered into made a contract with our community that they would not run after 2019 or after they met a certain number of tons. I don't have that on my head, not prepared. So, to me, why would the county not honor that contract for their constituents? And that opened up a whole new avenue, a whole new eyes for me about how this government actually operates. That there is a landfill waiting to get started, but yet they wanted to fill this up to the maximum. No matter how many times people were complaining then in 2014 of having headaches, of having inflammation in their nose, eyes, ears, throat, they still avoided us. They didn't listen, no matter how much. And I was stupid. I thought, okay, well, I'll just go through the governmental process. I'll go through the process, I'll fight, I'll go to the hearings, I'll give my public comment. None of it amounted to anything. The thing that's different now, and I'm just going to call you out, is OSHA, Orchid, moved to our community. We finally have a lawyer who can represent us. We went to court, the Val Verde Civic Association went to court over that contract, over issues with CEQA law. We went to court. This community, we did spaghetti dinners, we did swap meets, we busted our butt, we did pancake breakfast. We raised $18,000 to get a lawyer who was taking a huge discount to represent us. And at the end of the day, it didn't matter. It was awful. This, to say here that I am again at this protest is no slight of having traumatic triggers coming up. We fought so hard to be heard in 2014, 15, 16, 17, when they approved them to expand, even though they were supposed to shut down, and also after they went over their tonnage. They gave them a clean hands waiver. That person that gave them that clean hands waiver, he resigned because it was so shady and so suspect. But we did not have the power to do anything about it because landfills are meant to be by communities like Val Verde because we don't have the resources that other communities have. And I am so glad that we actually have more people involved. It is big enough that it's impacting more affluent communities, more people who are spending $1 million on their home and cannot go outside. This is a systemic issue. This is a perfect example of how we do not know how to manage our waste in this county and in this state. No more should our system, our utility systems, rely on the harm of our citizens to operate. I get it, you're gonna have to pay more for your garbage bill, but you will be saving people's lives. Thank you.